Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. It is Monday, the 22nd of January. I, I read that date this morning to myself and I went, the 22nd of January already? Man, I swear I just don't get it, how fast time can get away. And I'm getting so little done and time is flying by so fast. It's scary. It's more than scary. Well, anyway, we woke up to a nice big ice storm this morning. My commute down here to the shop was treacherous to say the least. I walked down here because, first of all, the Ranger, the windshield was completely covered in ice, and so was most of the rest of the vehicle, of course. And the ground was so slick that I thought, well, if I can't see how to drive and then the ground's slick anyway, I'll end up driving that doggone thing out into a ditch or something, because there are some ditches between here and the house. And I thought it's just better if I walk. Well, then I almost fell down like 3 different times walking down here. So I had to stay on the grass as much as possible, but there's blacktop and some concrete and some gravel, and even the gravel was really slick. I was amazed how slick the gravel was. Yeah, it was scary. The weekend was really bad here in terms of temperature. During the night, it was down into single digits, like 2 degrees, 3 degrees, that type of thing. And during the day, for a long time, it would stay really cold, and then it would warm up to about, I think on Saturday, it warmed up to about 12 or 15 degrees. And on Sunday morning, it was really cold again. Somewhere in there, I cut firewood during that really cold time in the morning, and the wind was blowing like crazy. It was just cold as it could be. In fact, that was probably the coldest I ever got cutting firewood. Usually cutting firewood, I'm sweating through my shirt. And don't get me wrong, I still sweated through my shirt. But the wind blowing and everything, it was really cold. My hands were froze. But we got her done, and in fact, speaking about the firewood, I might as well just show you that little quick blip of a video right now. Well, it's not a huge load, probably a little more than 1/4 of a trailer load, but you can see it's got the old Ranger squatted down pretty good. It's pretty heavy, and I got to run it back up to the house. I was going to cut a full trailer load, but number one, it's freezing out here. It's like 15 degrees. And number two, the battery was dead on the tractor, so I couldn't get it down here anyway. So this is what I got. It'll get me through about 2 days with what I already have up there. And I think you could hear the wind blowing in the microphone there on the camera. And yes, it was windy on top of it. It was cold. Now, I'm seriously telling you. But I got it done anyway. It warmed up yesterday afternoon into the 30s, and was still right at the edge of freezing, I guess you'd say. And then overnight it stayed right in that temperature, and that's why everything froze when it rained. It warmed up just enough to rain, but yet it was freezing when it hit the ground pretty much, because the ground was already good and froze too. So everything really stuck good on the ice. The trees don't look to be too terribly bad, but the ground is really bad, actually. Anyway, by the way, I think I mentioned this one time before, but I had kind of forgotten that I was on jury duty really this whole month and all the way up through June. You've got jury duty, which is basically all you do is you call in every Friday and you find out what your schedule is for the next week. And generally, they never have you do anything because it's all such a crooked, screwed up system. They always either negotiate out of court or something, so nothing ever really goes to jury trial. Being a judge, I don't know. I shouldn't even comment because I don't know what all they do, but it can't be too hard if you never go to trial. I'm sure there's a lot more to it than meets the eye with all the I don't know what you'd call it, the judge behind closed doors meetings. I'm sure he has a lot of those. But anyway, it's a mess. And so it puts you out in that you have to kind of make plans to always be available between now and June. My wife hates it way worse than I do. I don't like it at all, but she really hates it. Anyway, over the weekend, too, you probably saw that JR, some of you saw that JR took his Clydesdale Oliver out for a ride, and he rode around through my back property looking for sheep and stuff. And while he was riding, he found a deer antler, or he saw one laying there near the pond. So I was watching his live video when that happened, so I knew right where that antler was. So a little while later, I took Sadie back there because by that time it was afternoon and the temperature was up in the 30s yesterday afternoon. So I took Sadie back there, and she really just isn't showing much interest in it at all. I mean, she does in the shop here where there's no distractions, I guess. But when you get outside, there's just too many distractions, and she really has very little interest in it so far. But anyway, JR, I think, found this one here. And you can see this is broke off right here. And really very close to this, I found this one. So we found two more again. And they're not a match. I mean, they don't belong to the same deer because they're both from the same side. In fact, JR had found one a week or so ago, as you remember. And this is the one he found about a week ago. And I think these two match, actually. So the one that JR found yesterday and the one he found a few days ago, I think they match. They look like they do. The buttons are the same. When you look at the bottom base buttons, they're about the same. And the color of the antler, the shape, everything looks like these are a match. Now this one, you know, the one that I found, it doesn't look like it matches the first one to me. First of all, there's no brow tine here. This one has a brow tine. The button is shaped differently. So if anything, the two that JR found do match, actually. And then this other one that I found doesn't seem to. But anyway, that's just speculation on my part. Can't really know that for sure. The video I released later that Friday on training Sadie and doing that little walk around the farm and looking for antler. Honestly, that's the worst performing video I ever put out. I didn't think that would be that way. I really didn't. I thought, because I put the title "Puppy Training" with a link of a puppy on there, with a link or with a picture of Sadie on there. So I honestly thought it would do pretty good. I wasn't expecting it to set any records, but I didn't think it would be the worst performing video I've ever put out. It only has like 800 views at this point and only 3 or 4 comments. That just floored me. I just didn't expect that because everybody's so crazy about dogs and puppies these days. I really thought it would at least get some views. It's the worst one I ever put out. So I don't know what to do about that. That's very discouraging. Moving on, I got some new stuff over the weekend. I'll show you what I got. First of all, my brother Scott, he sent me these in the mail. These are cutters for the Dremel tool, and these are the spiral cutters like I like, which I don't know where he got them, but he must have ordered them online or something. Well, in fact, I know he must have ordered them from Amazon because it came with a gift card here from Scott. And anyway, he just sent these to me, I guess, probably because he was frustrated with the ones I have are so dull. And secondly, because he said, thanks for letting me use your stuff. So anyway, thanks, Scott, for the cutters. Those will be handy. I ordered some other stuff. Here's one of those. This is that weird-looking little filter that goes in that chainsaw. This is I say filter. It's actually the vent for the gas tank is what it is. So I got that in. I'll probably put that in JR's chainsaw now that I have the proper one. I kind of made one as a makeshift. I also ordered in a box of these little doohickeys, and you'll see these here. They're just rubber, just a rubber little stopper is what it is. And you think, why would you need those? Well, I needed them for my, I rebuilt my Craftsman 2-ton floor jack, automobile floor jack, and the stopper that was in there to hold the hydraulic fluid was completely spent, I guess you'd say. So I got some new ones. Hopefully they'll fit. I don't even know that for sure. Then I ordered a box of these. Can you see what they are? Gas can spout replacement kit. So it comes with several different tops here to fit. There should be enough here to make 3 gas cans up. And then there's the spouts are underneath, the actual spouts. And it even comes with vents too. And I remember the comment that I got on this the last time I talked about that. Is that legal to do that? It's legal for me. That's the only answer I got. I don't put up with the crap that you buy at the store. I mean, it's just crap. It took me, I had a different one of these. I put it on one of those plastic gas cans. Before I put that on, it took every bit of 10 minutes at least, and I think I'm being very conservative when I say 10 minutes to pour the gas out into the Ranger or whatever, 5 gallons. After I put this on, it took less than a minute to pour it in. And I spilled less gas with this than I do with the safety one, because the safety one has that stupid thing you got to push, and you're pushing hard to try to keep it open, and you're holding it, and it always slips, and you end up spilling gas every time with those safety ones. It's so stupid that it's unbelievably stupid. I can't even put it in words how stupid that design is. It's the dumbest thing that humans have ever designed in the history of humans. Absolutely the dumbest thing. So there you go. There's that rant. So anyway, I did get these, and I will make use of them. Most of the cans are in pretty good shape. I think I still got one that has one of those safety nozzles on it. And then I think in the title I mentioned Bill's guitar. And just this morning, I came down here early and worked on this. And I think I've got it up in pretty good shape. And I thought I had a pick out already, but I don't see it laying here. Wouldn't you know? Well, here's one. I tuned it a few minutes ago, so I assume it's still in tune after you take these things completely apart. But I haven't done anything to it since I put the frets in it and everything. I just strung it up, and really I've only played it for less than a minute this morning. So anyway, it's a pretty nicely set up guitar. Unfortunately, it's a little low for Bill. The action through here is only in I think the highest is around 75, and then it's down to like 60 down here. That's way too low for Bill. So we're going to have to make a new saddle. Up here, it's actually a little bit high. These middle strings are, I don't know, they're probably 5 or 10 thousandths too high. So I'll drop these down first, then I'll make a new saddle, raise this up, and we'll be able to get this thing set up where Bill can play it and won't have any more trouble. It doesn't really buzz, but it's right on the edge of buzzing. I mean, if you played light, you would love this setup because it's really nice and low. But because Bill, he hammers it and gets on it, he wants it set up higher. If I could think of something to play, I'd do it, but I can't think of anything. I can't really play lead on a guitar anyway. I can't think of anything. I know 200 songs, can't think of nothing. I think of different songs when I pick up a guitar than I do when I pick up a mandolin. But I don't pick up a guitar very often. But you can see I haven't really cleaned up the back yet where it broke here. It was pretty busted right in here. This area was pretty chewed up, and all I really think I have to do now is just buff that out. The binding came off in a long strip around here, and it's all up in pretty darn good shape. The peg head had broken. I think you can probably see that there's still a little line there where, yeah, you can see it there. There's a line there where the peg head broke, but I think I can touch that up with a little dye and a little bit of CA glue to fill in the finish there, and I think it'll be just fine. I don't think you'll even be able to tell that. So I got a few little more cosmetic things to do with this, and a few more things on the saddle to work out. And he really does want a little more space between these bottom two strings, and I don't blame him. I think this is actually a little tight. I think if just looking at it, it looks to me like these two are just a hair tighter than the other ones. So I may try to fix that for him too. But as I mentioned, really good musicians are really picky. So you should know that if you decide to get into this business, because you can be chasing your tail quite a bit trying to get everything just right. I guess we'll go to the comments. I don't have a whole lot this morning, so Rod Wentler yet again is number 1. Carolyn Fike probably yet again is number 2. And then there's Gary Hayden, Bill Mumbo, Bill Carter's there. Moving on down, I'm looking for comments or questions primarily. Dottie Hildebrandt says, "Hey Jerry, my question is, when you write a song, do you have a melody in mind before writing the song, or does the words come first? Or after you have the words, you work on the melody?" I generally do them both at about the same time. Generally, almost always, in fact. I don't think I've ever written, like a poem and then set music to it. I don't think I've ever done that. I try to find some kind of a melody and words that work together and hopefully are unique, and it's really hard to do. It's really hard to come up with anything unique. When you stop and think about it, you basically got 7 notes or whatever, and for the most part, that's what you have. And anyway, there's only so many ways you can put those together. So it's a challenge. But no matter what you write, you're going to copy somebody's something somewhere. There'll be some piece of it that's going to be copied out of some other song, even though you won't know it. It's just kind of the way it is. But I do write them pretty much at the same time. That's just kind of the way I do it. It works better for me that way. I feel like I have to make the melody fit the words and the words fit the melody pretty much at the same time. I don't see how other people do it where they just write the words and then they put a melody to that, or the other way around. It just doesn't work for me very well. I don't know. That's just me. Everybody's different on that stuff. Donald Matthews. Hello, Jerry. 19 in Rockland County, New York. Have you watched Wes Lee Music? Wes Lee Music. He is into brass instruments. What you are to wood stringed instruments. Wes Lee. I honestly don't think I have. I don't think I know that name. But I'll try to remember to check that out. Chuck Hybridder's there. 57 days till spring, he says. And Bill Webb's there. And Brian Webster, Kathy Voles. Moving on down, Bruce Ducker was the first one after we went live from Florida. And Gordon Bartlett, I've seen his name a lot on here over the years. And moving on down, just looking for question marks mainly. Bill Mumbo, you need Oliver and a sleigh, old chap. Yeah. Except that I'm not too sure Oliver will get around on this slick stuff right now, man. It's slick out there. But when I was growing up, my dad had a sleigh. We didn't have it very long. Most of those sleighs, unless you really take care of them, they fall apart. I don't know. That seems to be the case. There's not a lot of those around. Those are more rare than the old wagons and old surreys and buggies. At least they seem to be to me. And of course, it could be just because the area we're in. Now, if we were up north, maybe you'd find a lot more of those sleighs. I don't know. But down in this area, you don't find many of the sleighs. Because, like I said, we get the cold temperatures. We just don't usually get the snow to go with it. Therefore, I think the sleighs are less needed down here. James Akers, good morning, Jerry. You sound like you are feeling better. Thanks for the vlogs. You're always entertaining. Well, thank you, James. Well, I feel fine. I still can't quite get rid of all the cough thing here in the chest. But it's better. It gets better each day, but it just takes a long time to get rid of this. Blair Turner, I have an 1850 Simpson parlor guitar with a 1-inch almost round hole in the side, solid bird's eye maple. How would you repair that? The back is off at this time. Oh, if the back's off, that helps a lot. Yeah, it depends a lot on a whole lot of things. It depends on where it's at on the side. Like, is it in a real sharp curve area? Is it in a fairly flat area? Just there's a million things that it depends on. But let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, that it's in this nice flat area, like right in here. If there was a big hole, and I've done this a lot on big holes that were in areas like this. What I do is I kind of determine, is the side thick enough to do this, first of all, what I'm about to tell you. And generally, it's got to be at least 100 thousandths thick, or, well, I say in that ballpark. It could be a little less, but it needs to be reasonably thick to do what I'm about to tell you. And that is, I would take my little Dremel router and then route out a area around the hole, like a square, a rectangle, a diamond, some shape that you think would look good. And I route out around the hole half the thickness of the side. And then I make myself a plug that would fit the hole. I try to make the plug the same thickness as the side, and then I actually, on the back side of the plug sometimes, will actually route out the opposite, so that the plug would go down through the hole, and then the top would be flush with this. And really, I don't even make it flush. I'll let it stick up a little proud and then bring it down flush to this after it's glued in there. So sometimes I actually do half the thickness of this, and then I make a plug that would fit that hole, whatever the route out I make, the shape of it, whatever that shape is, I make a plug that would fit that shape, plus extend through the actual hole. That's what I try to do. And sometimes if the hole's really jagged, I'll even make the hole smoother so that my plug can fit the hole even better. There's a million ways you could skin the cat. But that's kind of how I've done it in the past, and it's worked really well. And in some cases, you can barely even tell that it was patched. The darker the wood is, the better the better it is to patch it. The lighter the wood is, the harder it is to patch it where you won't see it. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But if it's in a more curvy area, you'd have to use some variation of that, and I just have to know where it was at. But a curved area, like in this right here, if it's a big hole, that would be pretty hard to patch. You'd have to actually bend a piece of wood and do almost the exact same thing I'm talking about. Your patch would have to have a bend in it, to fit it. So it's much harder in some places than it is in others. In this flat area, it's not that difficult. But in a curved area, it can be pretty darn difficult. I don't know if that's your full answer for you or not, but that's the best I got. David Tharp. Good morning, Jerry. Is there any truth to the fretting slots on an acoustic guitar being too deep so there's an airspace between the bottom of the fret and the wood, causing the frets to be dead? I don't know about that. The dead doesn't really come from there. If it's dead, it's coming from somewhere else. It's coming from your saddle, from your bridge, from your bracing, from the way the guitar's made, the top. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, could it affect it? maybe that much, you know. I mean, like I think there could be a slight effect, but I do think you'd almost have to be a dog to hear it. There's lots of theories and just people making up crap is really what it amounts to. They'll say things because it makes, you know, they've got their own theory about it. Nobody else has thought of this, but it really doesn't make any common sense when you get right down to it. That's why I say, and I've said it ever since the first video I put out, it don't make a lot of sense to spend your time up here. This is not where your sound comes from. This is where your playability comes from, for sure. So if it's not playing well, or if it's broken, yeah, spend your time up here. But if it's just you're going after sound, then you're wasting your time up here. Go way back here. This is where your sound happens. And that just makes sense. When you note this string right here, does this have anything to do with it? Not at all. You know, so my point is, this has very little to do with your sound. This whole area has sort of very little to do, other than the fact that you have to pinch off the note to make the specific note, but it has very little to do with the overall tonal quality. The tonal quality is all back here. And I say all. I'm talking in the 95 to 97 percentile is all back here. So that's my thought on it. And I don't think I'm making up anything when I say that. I mean, that's just kind of a black and white common sense thing when you stop and think about it. So, let's see. Ronald Todd, thanks, Jerry. You keep mentioning Itchy Boots, and I would binge watching all weekend. Yeah, and man, just when you think it can't get any worse, I mean, it just does, you know? And like her cliffhanger, this last video she put out, I think yesterday, that's kind of a cliffhanger because she looks like she's about ready to sit down and eat a bunch of caterpillars. Oh my gosh. I can't eat vegetables. I could eat the caterpillars, honestly, before I could eat a bowl of lettuce. That's the truth. If I had to eat, I'd much rather eat the caterpillars. And having said that, I'm about to throw up my lunch here just thinking about it. But I could eat the caterpillars before I could eat a bowl of lettuce. And that's a fact. Black and white, 100%. That is not me just talking for effect on the video. Jeff Puris, the puppy video didn't pop up for me to watch. Maybe the YouTube bot thinks it don't need it to see. Yeah, that's very possible, Jeff. It could have been something with the algorithm that caused it, but honestly, I really didn't anticipate that at all. 890 views from Friday to now. I get that many views sometimes on a video in the first hour. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, like that's probably my biggest, that's like stepping on a plum type feeling. That's kind of the way this feels with that video, putting it out. It's like, why am I even trying? James Akers next. Come on, people, hit the thumbs up. Thank you. I hope you do. We've got 186 viewers on here right now. That's really wonderful. I'm real happy with that. There's Michael Ragusa from New Rochelle again. Sadie seems to be doing well. Yeah, she's a good dog. I mean, honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10 for a pet, she's a 10. I mean, absolutely 100% 10. There's no doubt about it. Anybody out there that likes dogs or pets and things would love her. She's a great dog. I don't get into that. That's just not me. It's more like if she does what I want her to do, then we're going to get along. And if she don't, then I'm ready to send her off to somebody else because that's just me. And I'm sorry if it offends you. It's just me. I can't help that. I can't change the way I am because, I won't, lie to you about it. It's just the way it is. James Hopper, Beaver Retriever. Mr. Jerry, check the reed valve on JR's chainsaw. That may be the problem. They don't have reed valves, I don't think, on chainsaws anymore. I don't think so. I'm thinking that one out, but I don't think so. If there is, I don't know about it. It's got a carburetor. Reed valve. I know I've seen reed valves on two-stroke engines, but you know, now that you say that, I'm thinking, when's the last time I saw a reed valve? I don't remember seeing a reed valve forever. I don't know. Interesting comment. I'll have to think on that one. Paula Haven says, thinking about getting a mandolin, could you recommend one for a beginner? Well, honestly, Paula, I haven't been messing with them for so long now. It's been quite a few years since I really looked at the different ones. My best recommendation is to get one better than a beginner. That's really my best recommendation, and it's the truth. And there's several reasons for it. Generally, if you get a little better mandolin or a better instrument, period, you'll like it better, you'll want to play it more. They just usually feel better, sound better, all that. So if I was recommending for a beginner, and you could afford an Eastman, and you know, you can get different deals on used Eastmans and things, maybe on eBay or whatever, you know, I would look at an Eastman. That would be my best recommendation. But that's not necessarily what you'd call a beginner mandolin, but it would be a great beginner mandolin if you could get one at a reasonable price. The other one is the Loar, Theloar, the Loar. The Loar is, you know, it would be second to the Eastman with a fairly good gap there. I mean, some of the Loars are really nice. I mean, they're very good, but the Loars are a little more questionable in terms of, is every one of them really good? The Eastmans, pretty much all of them are pretty good, really. I mean, you don't have to worry too much if you got one that says Eastman. The Loar is a little more questionable, though that would probably be my second choice. And then there's a gazillion other ones that are about equivalent to the Loar. And then there's some lesser ones that are below that, but yet can be set up to play fairly well. And at one time, the Rogue, Rogue, I think, is how they spelled it. The Rogue mandolins, they're really cheap and they don't cost much. But generally, they can be set up fairly okay, you know, and you won't get a great sound. Generally, they can play okay and be okay. So that's kind of in the order in reverse that I would go. The Rogue would Rogue or similar type to the Rogue would probably be the very least I would go, and those are hit and miss. You really just don't know until you get one and try to set it up how well it's going to be. I would really try to shoot for an Eastman if you could, and the Loar would probably be my second choice. And there's quite a few other ones. I can't think of the other one. Michael something. There's a Michael something. Can you guys think of what that name is? I know I've seen them, had them in the shop a bunch of times. Just can't think of the name of it right now. I think it's Michael something. I don't know. Anyway, hope that helps you. Let's see. Simon Jardine. He says they're dealing with the tail end of the storm here in Scotland. I've lost my garden fence, but my landlord will foot the bill for a new one. Not me, thankfully. Well, that's good. Gary Hayden. As far as the gas can vents, you'll need a 1/2 inch hole. Step bits work best. A little Vaseline on the bit captures the plastic pieces. Yeah, I've pretty much done that a number of times there, Gary. But yeah, you're right. A step bit does work really well on drilling through thin plastic or metal. I actually put one of those nozzles and one of the vents. Now, I've got some better vents. Those vents that I've been putting on are metal, which I like them better. They you know, you can tighten them down with a bolt, and they get really good and tight. And they've got anyway, but you still have to drill the hole. And one of those I drilled was through plastic, and one of them I drilled recently was through metal. And but the step bits really do work well for thin things like that. And the Vaseline's a good tip for catching the plastic and stuff. He says those are good nozzles you purchased. Well, good. I went by the rating on them. I haven't bought this brand before, but the rating was really good, so I thought, well, I'll give them a shot, And there was 3 of them in a box, and they were cheap, so I just went with it. Moving on down. There's Bo Horn, Newton Horn says, hey, my friend, how do you handle copyright issues on your songwriting? Are you connected with ASCAP or BMI? Well, I have registered a number of songs with BMI over the years, and I kind of quit doing that, to be honest with you. Technically, by law, I mean, could you? I don't know. I'm no lawyer. But so the way I understand it, copyright law is anything you write is technically copyrighted the moment you write it. But you have to register your copyright, to protect it, if you will. There's a lot of ways to register your copyright. I mean, registering it with BMI is sort of kind of okay, but there's really a copyright, I think, office, in the government that you register the copyrights with. And then BMI and ASCAP are where you get your royalties. Once you've registered your copyright, you can then set up with BMI and that, and then if the song gets played or whatever, then you'll get your royalties. But it takes a lot of plays to get any royalties. I've received, I don't know, a dozen or so royalty checks over the years, but not they don't amount to anything. So I don't really worry about it too much. Like a lot of people would be really afraid to play a new song that they wrote over YouTube. Well, to me, that's almost black and white insurance that you wrote it. See, I look at it the other way. It's like I can go to court and show my video dated such and so date that I, played this song. And that's just the way I look at it. Plus, I just don't figure I'm going to be writing any big hits that anybody's going to care about anyway. If I was somebody like Damon Black or some of those big songwriters that's written a lot of big hits, well, that might be a different story, I might be registering everything. Like I said, I jumped through the hoops and I did register some with the actual copyright office, and then I did register with BMI. And it sort of paid off and sort of didn't. It's hardly worth it. You just everybody has to make their own judgment on that. From my perspective, I just feel like it's hardly worth it. If you really get into it serious, obviously it's worth it. Renee Carnival, thank God you did not start singing. My ears can't hear that noise. Anybody ever tell you you sound like squirrel chirping? Well, thank you, Renee. You're very kind. You seem like a very pleasant person. Let's see. Bad Bob. Hi, Jerry. How's the floor jack coming? I've got it all done, and I think I've even got the video, all the video shot, I think. Just got to put it together. But it worked out pretty well. Charlie Rostron. I agreed with Jerry about Eastman mandolins. Got an F315, and it's wonderful. Yeah, Eastmans are pretty darn good, and you can get some good deals on them. So, I mean, if you look around and search, you might get a good deal. Of course, you got to be careful, because if it's a real good deal, there may be something wrong with it. So, you just weigh it all out, is all I can tell you. But as a factory instrument, that's probably the one I would recommend over anything I've seen, because I've seen a lot of them, and they've always been really good. I mean, I haven't really seen any bad Eastmans come in the shop. And that's saying a lot if you think about it. Carolyn Fike, didn't you show us the Sadie video on your live? Yes, I did. You should count the views from the live. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. It's, you're right. I guess I didn't take that into account as much as I could have. You're right. But I just thought the release on its own would do better because I didn't expect you guys to watch it again. That wasn't it. I was expecting like the algorithm and just the fact that it's about a puppy because people just love puppies. I mean, everybody goes nuts over them. So I just thought that it would at least get some decent views. I wasn't expecting it to be my highest video, but I sure wasn't expecting it to be my lowest. And it's pretty much my lowest ever. I don't think I've ever had one do as poorly. Anyway, but you're right, Carolyn. I should think about that. G.V. Russell says, kind of reminds me of a bunch of old friends meeting at the coffee shop. Well, I think about that every single day we do this. I really do. And you might say, oh, yeah, you're just saying that to chime in with the guy. No, I mean, I really do think of that because my dad had a ritual of every single morning going to the coffee shop. Every morning he went to the coffee shop and sat around with his old friends. And I've told you the story about when he had the wonder dog called Sunny. And when I say wonder dog, I'm seriously telling you can't overstate what this dog could do. I've never seen a dog anything even similar. Lassie would look like a dummy next to Sunny. And so Sunny was so well behaved and so perfect in terms of doing what Dad said that like Dad would go down to the donut shop or coffee shop in the morning and he would sit in the back of the truck and he would just sit there and he'd staring out the side. He'd just be sitting in the back of the truck waiting for Dad to come back out, and there could be other dogs running back and forth. Now that keep in mind, Sonny could jump in the back of the truck or jump out anytime he wanted. And he'd just stay in the back of the truck because Dad told him to stay there, And it wouldn't matter if there's 15 dogs come parading by. He'd stay in the back of the truck, And then the ladies got to know him so well at the coffee shop that they would set a donut in a bag and they'd set it outside the door. Well, Sonny would jump out and go get the bag. He'd take the whole bag up in the back of the truck and then he'd eat his donuts, It was just amazing. So that's why I think of this every day, that it's like going to the donut shop. It really is, because every single day Dad did that. And Sonny went with him pretty much every day he did that. Moving on down. Ronald Todd is, in answer to Paula's question, is get the best you can afford. Yeah, that's really what I guess I was saying. Michael Kelly, that's the name I was trying to come up with. Thank you. Yeah, Michael Kelly mandolin. Is there, they're another one that's, I would say, on the scale of the lower. I mean, there's some really good ones. If you find the right one, those are really good. Some of them are a little on the questionable side, but they still all they would all beat like the Rogue, if you will, even though I have seen a couple of the Rogues that actually sounded pretty darn good. And I guess if I was adding anything to what kind of mandolin to buy or what kind of instrument in general to buy, it doesn't really matter if it's a mandolin or anything. The general rules are, like he says, buy the best you can afford. But if you're reading between the lines, you want to get solid wood top. For sure, a solid wood top. It's preferable to be solid wood all over, even though some of the quote-unquote laminated, which I call plywood, which is really more correct, the plywood style instruments, some of those do sound really good. But generally, the ones that sound really good do have a solid top. So you want to get a solid top if you can. Ben Boyd, he's talking to somebody, says, Jerry is a huge hide glue fan. Yeah, that's true. Gordon Bartlett, Michael Kelly. Yeah, Eastman make excellent entry-level instruments. The acoustic shop have reviewed a few. Okay. Well, that's another good resource, is talk to the guys at the acoustic shop for their recommendation on an entry-level mandolin. They would really be a good source, and they're all good guys. They wouldn't treat you wrong. They would treat you right. So that would be another. If you don't know who the acoustic shop is, that's what it's called, the acoustic shop. It's down in Springfield, Missouri. I'm sure you can find it just by Googling or watching their videos on YouTube. Timothy Werblow, I have an older Michael Kelly. Sounds good. Yeah, there's a lot of really good Michael Kellys out there. I've had a bunch of them in the shop. I got to be honest, though. I'm just honest all the time if I can be, and that is that I've had a lot of Michael Kellys I didn't think too much of. But there's been some really good ones, too. And the same way with the lowers. I've had some that I didn't think too much of, and I've had some that were really good. And same, but with the Eastmans, I got to say that pretty much every single one of them I've had in the shop, I've gone, pretty good mandolin. I really haven't had any that I thought were, less, if you will. Yeah, Michael Kelly, there's Blackjack Guitar chiming in there. Christia Thomason, time to get the troll bane out for Renee. Yeah, if you want to be mean and ignorant, I don't care. Just be mean and ignorant. It don't bother me one bit. You notice how it really affected me, didn't you? I could care less. I'm sure that, whatever Renee could do on a guitar or an instrument, I'm sure I can match him. That's all I can tell you. Ryan Stokes. Jerry, I came across a 57 Gibson Country Western at a yard sale for $20. It has a bow behind the bridge and, of course, a high action. The neck seems straight. I had a luthier close by that said, okay, if it was his, he wouldn't bother fixing it. What do you think? Okay, let me read that again because I can't keep all these thoughts together. That's my problem with reading. A 57 Gibson Country Western at a yard sale for $20. It has a bow behind the bridge. And of course, high action. Oh, yeah, I'd fix that in a heartbeat. That wouldn't be no big deal to fix. I mean, it's not easy to fix, but it's not that hard either. So I don't know why he would say he wouldn't bother with it. Maybe it was so you'd give it to him. No, I'd fix that. There'd be no doubt about it. Bill Webb. Actually, Renee, squirrels bark. They don't chirp. You need to be nice or go somewhere else. Yeah, thank you, Bill. CGWs. Hi, Jerry. I'm watching from South Wales, UK. I'm going to take up mandolin after 49 years of guitar playing. My budget is 500 lira, I guess is what that is, or that's not the word I'm trying to think of. I don't think it's lira. What is that? Pounds, I guess? 500 pounds? I guess that's probably it. Anyway, any recommendations? By the way, it's sure hard being you. Yeah, again, I would just try to find yourself an Eastman. I think it's probably your overall best idea. And, as good as you can afford. And the Eastman line, too, would be that much better. I don't know if you can find one for the money you're talking about there, but you might be able to. If not, I would go with the lower. That'd be probably my second choice that I can think of. But there's more out there. I'm no expert on knowing all the different brands. Again, the acoustic shop would be a good resource. I would talk to them if you can. Email them or call them or whatever, Charles Salkowitz. And by the way, if anybody does contact the acoustic shop, always tell them you heard about them here, if you would, please. Good morning, all from the Florida Sun Coast, 46 degrees. Dottie Hildebrand, how do you get rid of trolls? Time to block Renee. I don't bother with them too much. The only time I ever block anybody, and I've blocked, I don't know, have I blocked a dozen people? Probably a dozen in the 10 years I've been on here. And I only block them when they get really belligerent, like they just won't quit coming back. You know what I'm saying? If they just do it time and time again and they won't let it drop, then I'll block them because there's no reason for that. That's just ridiculous. If you want to make a comment like he made, fine. Just knock yourself out. See how much good it does you. Let's see. Bill Webb, Paul Scalise. I have a lower guitar made in China, but well built and sounds and plays good. They are the same ones who make lower mandolins. Good. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Papa Tom, my 40-year-old gas can doesn't have a vent. The spout is spring-loaded. Push and twist. It dumps fuel like filling a NASCAR racer. Yeah, there are. I do have some of those metal cans that don't have a vent, and they work great. But they actually do. They do have a vent. If you look, there's a vent inside the filler tube that goes all the way back up in there, and that's how they vent. At least the ones I've seen, and mine have that. So, but those work great too. I do have, I think, 3 of those big metal cans. We have a lot of gas cans, guys. This is not, again, something I know nothing about. This is something I'm pretty much an expert on because, for one thing, I've done it my whole life. My dad had gazillions of gas cans because he had that lawn service, and I think he had 7 trucks running at one time with 7 lawn tractors going and, push mowers, and we had a lot of gas cans, trust me. So I've been around doing this kind of thing my whole life. That's why I say that the new version of this gas can is the stupidest invention ever designed by a human, period. There ain't nothing stupider. It is the dumbest thing that humans have ever put out on this planet. And I would go to Congress and tell them that. People are stupid these days just to do things like this. It's so dumb. They think this is going to save the planet. And it just does the exact opposite. It's so stupid. I've never spilt more gas than I've spilt with those quote-unquote safety cans. Those are the ones I spill the most gas with. You can't hardly do it without spilling gas with those things. There you go. Carolyn Fike says, I love my Eastman mandolin. Well, there you go. There you go. That's all you need to know right there. Yeah, so Christy is talking about how to block a person. Yeah, you can just hold the right button down, and it should give you the option to block it or something. There's a way to do it. I don't even remember how to do it. It's been a long time since I blocked anybody. But you'd be surprised. I mean, like Renee's comment was like this compared to to the comment I got about El Comanchero playing that one. Oh my gosh, this guy went on and 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 on. I mean, I probably answered him 4 or 5 different times, and he just kept coming back, being more ignorant each time. And so finally, I just blocked him and said, "Forget it. It's ridiculous." And I mean, it's like insults. That's not even an insult, man. Compared to what this guy was doing. Papa Tom meant EPA not watching. I don't care if they're watching. Come here and arrest me. I don't really flat give a rip. Just know before you do, you got your hands full. That's all I can tell you. You start pushing me around on stuff like that, you got a big push coming. That's all I can tell you. I don't back down to stuff like that. Carolyn Fike, I paid $1,000 for my F model Eastman, but I know they have an A model for around $700. Okay, there you go. Larry Fisher, the flat iron mandolins are okay for the money. Yeah, flat irons they were always good. In fact, some of those were really, really good. I have seen a few flat irons that I wasn't crazy about, but most of the flat irons were really, really good. So that's another one. That's just a brand that I'd forgotten about. Bowhorn, I think you ought to sing a song for those of us who love you. Well, thank you. Paul Scalise, Bill Webb, thanks. I accidentally deleted my comment. I don't guess there's had something going there. I don't know what that was. Bad Bob, you're a good man, Jerry. There's an old saying, like water off a duck's back. Yeah. You're going to have to work harder than that to insult me. Thomas Armstrong, is there a brand of vintage gas can that are better than or more collectible. Well, I don't claim to be the expert in that regard, but some of the better gas cans are those. What do you even call them? And I know the name again. Wavian or something. Anyway, they're a rectangular gas can. They used to mount them on the backs of a Jeep or something like that. Those kind of like Army gas cans, the rectangular ones. They usually have like an X in the sides of them and the X was there to make the sides stiffer, and then they have the pop open type thing and then a snout that goes on them. I've got 3 of those. Those are great gas cans. Those are metal, and they pour gas really, really good. I don't know. Those are some of those. The older ones of those would be excellent if you could find them. The newer versions of those, you got to be careful because some of them are really cheap. I bought 3 of them, and I think I got 2 good ones and 1 cheap one, and the cheap one's kind of a pain. So you get what you pay for on those, I think. Let's see. Thomas Armstrong. Okay, let me moving on down. Let's see. Clyde Lewis. Yeah, he says those cans are the worst. I got the regular spouts put on them. Yep, that's what you got to do. It is the dumbest invention ever created by a human. I cannot figure out what they thought they were fixing. What did they even think they were fixing? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. What do you think about using fish glue under the fretboard extension for future resets because it releases at lower temp than Titebond? If that's what you want to do, feel free. I don't have any problem getting Titebond to come loose. In fact, I have, and I'm not just saying this. I'm telling you black and white, I mean it. I've had way less trouble getting Titebond off than I've had getting hide glue off. Absolutely 100% can guarantee you that. Now, sometimes the hide glue will just come apart on its own, so you don't have to worry about it. But there are times when some hide glues, like I said, the batches vary, and some hide glues just won't come apart no matter what you do. But most hide glues will fall apart on their own over time. So, but the thing about the Titebond is it's consistent. Yeah, it might take a little bit more than a fish glue because I don't know anything about fish glue, so I'm not talking negative on fish glue. Might take a little more than a fish glue, but it's a constant, easy thing that you kind of know every time how hard it's going to be, and it's that way every time. So when you got something that's consistent and you know how to deal with it, it's not a problem. Just like anything. Once you know how to do something, it's a piece of cake. And taking Titebond apart is a piece of cake compared to any of the other glues that I've messed with. So I'm happy with it. Dottie Hildebrand, those that troll, can they match you playing a mandolin? I don't know. Maybe they can. I will say this, that almost anybody that really knows how to play a mandolin pretty much has me beat already. That part I can pretty much guarantee you. I like the way you handle trolls. Keep singing. Thank you. Bill Mumbo, we can call them jerry cans in Britain. Yeah, I've heard it called that, jerry cans. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Yeah, I have heard that. So thanks, Bill. I forgot about that. Bill Webb, jerry can, that's what we always called them. Yep. No pun intended. Yeah, you're right. I've heard that. Now that you say it, I kind of forgot that. But yeah. Tim Trimble, I think, yeah, he is also saying the same thing. Clyde Lewis, do you need to store glue and dyes above 50 degrees or will the cold hurt them? I always keep my shop at about 55 or warmer degrees, anywhere 55, 58, 60 degrees. So like when I'm not down here, it doesn't really fall much below 60. So I don't know the answer to that, Clyde, but I would assume keep it warmer. That would just be my assumption. It always seems right with liquids to keep them a little warmer. Oh, okay. Rod Wintler says the jerry can came from Germany during the war. Yeah, that makes sense too. Now that you say that. Thomas Armstrong, Can't believe they designed the crummy gas cans for a generation that grew up sucking gas out of car tanks with a hose. Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I don't know. It just, to me, it's such a dumb thing. I'm all for improving something. If you can improve it, I'm the first one in line. But when you take it and you make it worse, I'm ready to wring your neck. I don't even want to talk to you. I just want to punch you in the face. That's pretty much the truth of it. I absolutely hate poor design. I've told you before, and you've heard me say it a billion times. There is no excuse. Zero, none, not any, for a poor design. There's no excuse. Even when I make something from scratch, there's no excuse for a poor design. Now, granted, there's a prototype. I get that, but by the time it hits the market, it ought to be fixed. Whatever the problems are with your prototype, they ought to be fixed. There's no excuse for a poor design. I mean, when I made my, sawmill on the ground, I didn't have a plan one. I just started welding stuff together. And yeah, I've made some mistakes. Well, I fix them. If I was going to take that now and put it out to the market, I'd have all the problems fixed by the time it hit the market. Why would you take something that's worked for 150 years and turn it into just total crap? And that's what they've done with gas cans. Absolute total crap. Just can't stand it. I absolutely hate that worse than just about anything. I think I hate that worse than hide glue. Hit the thumbs up, folks. That's what Bruce Ducker says. All right, you got me ranting good enough there. I think I'm going to call it good for today. Thank you all for joining me. 216 viewers. Shoot, that's almost as many as the Sadie video got. Thanks a lot, guys. We will see you tomorrow with something else.